Hello, I'm Ellie from Nourishment Redacted, and welcome to Lioness Lifestyle Live.
And I am Cristie from Meeting Wellness. And as always, it is wonderful to meet with you this evening.
And I am Adrian K. Gledhill. If you have any questions for our guests, please put QQQ or question in front of your question so we can be sure to get it to our guest.
And by now, you should know that makes it time for this week's Roar of the Week. I mean, ladies, when there was a literal roar, like there was a literal roar. And sorry, I know whenever it's a short comment, it turns out really big. I can't like edit it and change it. But so sorry, Adrian, you're doing great. I'm gonna peek over the top. But yes, Nancy K 7874 just said roar with a lion emoji. So that was awesome. Thank you, Nancy, for being this week's Roar of the Week. You guys leave us a comment. And next week, Ellie's going to tell you why, but I won't even have to hunt through 3 channels. I will only have to look in one place. So after the show is over, drop us a comment, and I will go and look in that one place to find a Roar of the Week for next week's show.
Exactly. We have such an exciting announcement. We've been thinking about this for a while. We've been toying with the idea, but we finally decided to go for it. We've decided to create a dedicated channel for Lioness Lifestyle. So all of the live streams are going to be there. We're going to be uploading previous episodes in edited format so that you can enjoy them and share them, because we want to let everybody know about the carnivore and keto way of lifestyle from the women's perspective. And it's such an important message, and we love it. Oh, I'm going to cry, but we love it. And so we need you to subscribe. I'm going to put it in all the chat room thingies, because we won't have to do that next time. Please go to @Lioness Lifestyle and please go subscribe. So starting next week, we will stream there exclusively. So if you haven't subscribed there yet, please do, and click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode. Okay, so did we get everything out? Okay, so now this is the best part of the show. We're going to welcome our guest on. So please, everyone, get ready for our guest, Real Life Carnivore, Richelle. Yay!
Hi, ladies.
Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. We love your story, and I've gotten to know you on a personal level, and I was like, you have to come on Lioness. More people need to know what you've experienced. So can you share who you are, your health journey, and why you eat a carnivore diet?
Ooh, many reasons. Let's start at the beginning. So I have basically my entire life been an athlete. I used to compete competitively in figure competitions, which is like a category of bodybuilding, but not as extreme. And with doing that, I did not care what the cost was at the time, because I did not have any desire to have children or a family or anything like that. So it just wasn't a thought in my brain of how my training and my eating would affect my body long term. Long story short, I ended up shutting down my entire endocrine system. I did not ovulate for over a decade, which meant that for me to get pregnant was basically not a thing. And it wasn't until I met my now husband that I was like, I want to have children. When I first met him, I was like, I would have 10 children with this person. And so that became an active concern of mine. I started, I'd always been interested in nutrition and fitness and health, but I didn't realize what I needed for nutrition in order for my body to function optimally. And so when I met my husband and this thought started coming into my brain that I wanted to have a family, I was like, okay, well, I need to kind of address some things. Like, I don't even know if I can have children. Fast forward about 4 years, we found out that we were not able to conceive. And we received the infertility diagnosis with a large billing option if we wanted to do in vitro for pregnancy, which is in Canada is about $40,000 for a potential chance at having a child. And not only did we not have $40,000, we figured we must have missed something somewhere. So we moved down to the US for a job placement for my husband down to sunny Southeast Texas. And we are loving living here. My husband is amazing. And he came home one day and was like, you know what? I think we should give carnivore a try. He had some chronic elbow pain that would just not go away. And I was kind of a little bit hesitant at first because I thought carnivore really, like I'd heard about Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson. I was like, it kind of just seems restrictive to only eat meat, even though meat was everything to me. Like if we ever went out to a restaurant, that's all I cared to eat was the meat. Fancy that. And so I did a little bit of research. He sent me Dr. Ken Berry's YouTube. I went down the rabbit hole with Dr. Ken Berry and Kelly Hogan, and her story, her testimony of overcoming infertility on the carnivore diet really shook me to my core. I was like, what? You mean that this works for people? And so I just started digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And I thought, maybe this is the missing link. I'm all in. I'm in. My husband came home and I said, that's it. I'm in. We're doing this. So we started carnivore October 2nd, 2022. It was the week before my period, and it was a miserable time because my husband wanted to go straight line, which was not a good idea for me because I was a sugar addict, carb addict, a restrictive binge eater, a volume eater. I had a lot of disordered eating from, my fitness past that just was unresolved, unrelenting. And so coming to carnivore, I needed to find community. I needed to find support, and I needed to find the right way to go about it so that I could get my body healthy so I could have a baby. I ended up coming across Steak and Butter Gal, Miss Bella, and her community, and I joined her community, and everything just changed from there. Everything started going in a good direction. I started doing what's called priming, which is basically getting your body as nourished as possible to prepare it for eventually fasting, which I was totally into because as a restrictive binge eater, you fast a lot as punishment for overeating other times, or at least that was my story. So I started the priming process. I could not believe how hungry I was, and to think that the reason why I was binging on sugar and carbs and so many things for so long was because I was so hungry. Now it took about 2.5 months for things to really start turning around. And I will say one caveat, I did do a 7-day fast guided by a naturopath when we lived in Canada to get my body to start ovulating again. And it worked, but we still couldn't conceive because my husband was also infertile at the time. But in December of 2022, we actually conceived. I didn't know. I was trying to fast, and I was like, why isn't the fasting working? Well, it wasn't working because my body was trying to implant a baby at the time. And we ended up losing the baby, and I was devastated about it, but I was also grateful because that meant that my body was healthy enough and had healed enough that I was now able to conceive. So I just kept on keeping on. I just worked through all the emotional stuff with it. I kept priming, I kept eating, I kept nourishing, I kept praying. And in April, we conceived. And in December of last year, December 21st, 2023, in our beautiful little home, we delivered our healthy baby boy, who is now 7.5 months old with almost 4 teeth. I can't even believe he has that many teeth. And yeah, that's why I'm here. And so many things. I mean, the list goes on. Chronic arthritic pain. Like there were days where I could not get out of bed because my body would just be in so much pain because I've been in multiple terrible accidents, sports accidents. I got T-boned by a semi-truck. I fell 16 feet onto my back, fractured my pelvis. I've been T-boned by a pickup truck. Lots of like impact injuries to my body. And so chronic arthritic pain was just, living with pain was just a daily thing for me. I just had to deal with it. Digestive issues, I oscillated between being constipated and diarrhea. To combat the constipation, I would take magnesium, which would cause me diarrhea. I had really bad digestive stomach issues like GERD. I had SIBO. I had a chronic candida infection that would just not die. I had eczema in my ears. I had psoriasis on my scalp. What else? Gosh, I feel like there's so many things. Insomnia. I maybe slept 1 to 2 hours sporadically a night. That is totally not a thing anymore. Even with a little guy, it's not even a thing anymore. Tinnitus, something that I was told would probably never resolve. Turns out that swelling inflammation on the cranial nerve often contributes to tinnitus. So once I got my inflammation down, suddenly the tinnitus was gone, which is amazing. Adrenal fatigue, gone. So many things. Even my night vision. I had terrible night vision. I hated driving at night. Even at dusk, I would be panicky. Gone. Depression, gone. Anxiety, gone. OCD, improved. ADHD, improved. The list goes on. But that's the Coles Notes version of me.
That's such an amazing story, especially because it wasn't just you. Like Ellie kind of gave me a quick rundown about you, being able to conceive, but I wasn't aware that it was you and your husband, that were infertile. So carnivore worked for both of you. That's fantastic. My question is, did you have any kind, had you heard about like Dr. Kiltz, or did you have any other carnivore, like fertility specialist kind of doctors telling you to do this? Or like, did your husband get that information that kind of way? Did you have an idea that might help you conceive, or were you just kind of hoping that?
So I think it was totally a God thing, because he came home one day from work and he was like, so a former friend and colleague called me and was talking to me about how his pain resolved on the carnivore diet and said I should try it for my elbows. And then that's when he started doing some research, because that friend sent him Dr. Ken Berry's video. So he sent it to me to watch. I watched the video, found Kelly Hogan. Then I found Dr. Kiltz. I think it was in like late November of 2022. I found Dr. Kiltz and I was like, okay, so there's a doctor that's on board with this other than Dr. Berry. Okay. And then I started finding more and more doctors. I found Dr. Chafee with the plants are trying to kill you thing. Who else did I find? Well, Dr. Boz, Dr. Wiedemann, there's so many pro-carnivore, pro-keto lifestyle doctors that I just, once you find one, the algorithm changes. You start finding them all.
So how long did it take you to heal? And also, really quick, I see some people messaging. Yes, we started a new channel if you missed the beginning, and this is where we'll be streaming from here on forward. Also, I am traveling right now, and so if you're commenting in there, unfortunately, I cannot comment on the phone, but I see you, Dr. Nelson, and I see you, Karen, and I'm so happy you're here. So anyway, sorry. So Richelle, how long did it take you to heal?
Well, I would say that healing is not linear, and my body is still healing, because not a lot of people go through so many metabolic shifts in such a short period of time, going from infertile to pregnant to miscarriage to fertile and pregnant to postpartum. But I would say my body is still healing. As for the infertility, if I go from the first pregnancy, then it would be 2.5 months. But if I go to the first full term pregnancy, then it would be October to April, which I think is 6 months, 6 or 7 months for that to heal. And I would say what accelerated my healing was when I finally kicked my sugar addiction. So when I first started carnivore, and I'm very transparent about this, I kept in the keto-friendly sweeteners, such as allulose, because everybody's like, oh, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. Not for me. But I did keep it in, just because I didn't want to admit that I was addicted to sugar, but I couldn't go a day without it. I literally could not go a day without it. And so I kept it in. I mixed it into cream cheese to kind of make like a cheesecake every single day. And then about between the 6th and 8th week carnivore, all of a sudden I was like, this doesn't really taste that good to me, which is very weird for me to say anything like that, because my husband and I would go to a restaurant and get dinner together. We would get dessert. He would get one, I would get one, and I would eat mine and then finish his, because he would eat 1 or 2 spoons and he'd be fine. And I'm like, no, I'll finish that for you. And it wasn't until I cut out the sweetener and I felt nourished enough to cut out the sweetener that I really started to see, like, I still had the nagging pain. I was sleeping better, but I wasn't sleeping through the night. I still had digestive issues. I still had the tinnitus. And then within 3 days of cutting allulose out, because it was literally like, I'm just going to try this tomorrow and just see if I can go a day without sweetener. And then one day turned into 3, turned into a week, turned into a month, turned into, almost 2 years now. And that was it. Within 3 days, my arthritic pain was like, it went from a 9 to a 2. And my husband was like, are you feeling okay? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you haven't eaten anything sweet and you haven't complained about your neck hurting. And I was like, does correlation equal causation here? And in my case, it did. And so it was really revelatory to me that even my husband was noticing the changes that were happening in my body, the healing that was happening.
And that's just so amazing, because it was kind of like your body was broken because of all the accidents and having a bad relationship with food. Why don't we go into a little bit about what your relationship with food was like before carnivore and how it's changed now?
Oh, this is a great question.
Yeah.
My relationship with food has changed significantly. I still find it very easy to be a volume eater on carnivore, particularly in the macro of protein. It's very easy for me to overeat protein. I have to be very mindful when I eat it, because for me, protein was like the thing that would satiate me when I was starving in a competition. It was always safe to eat protein. It wasn't safe to eat carbs or fat. Or at least that's what we were told. When you're competing and you're dialing in your body and you're trying to get it sub 10% body fat, there are certain things that you just can't have a lot of. And it was interesting because anytime I would binge when I was competing, it was always on like protein bars. Never not just sweets. It was always like 12 protein bars in like one sitting in 10 minutes. And I would almost kind of black out, eat it all, and then wake up kind of like, oh, what did I just do? Where are all these wrappers from? And now it's like, I recognize what hunger feels like. I recognize what satiety feels like. And I recognize, most importantly, what boredom feels like. Boredom is a really dangerous place for me to be, because I will graze, I will snack, I will look for something to busy myself with, which is not helpful when you're working towards certain health and fitness goals. My relationship is completely different with it now. And I went Lion for a period of time. I never thought I would actually get to the place where I could successfully do Lion. And I didn't think I could feel better on carnivore until I went Lion. And then all of a sudden I was feeling even better. My hunger and satiety cues all leveled out, balanced out. I stopped wanting to eat 5 times a day. I was like, oh, I'm actually full. And I will say the biggest trick for me is eating the fat first. So I have some fat, and then I have the meal, whatever it is, a couple burger patties with like thick tallow and some, smoked salt on top or whatever. And then I have some more fat after. So I basically sandwich my meal in with that, and I am good to go. I'm breastfeeding, and I could almost do an OMAD now, which is insane to me. Like, I did not think that I could ever get even close to a 2MAD with breastfeeding. And for those of your viewers who maybe don't know what 2MAD or OMAD is, it's like 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day, just to clarify for anybody who might be new. But big difference, huge difference. And I cannot express how good I feel.
Thanks for popping up Michelle's comment. I'll read it. So glad to be here. I would be eating sugar out of a sugar bowl at 2 a.m. 3 months carnivore and not one cheat day. No desire for anything sweet. Michelle, that is fantastic. And then I do have a question, but before I ask it, I just would like to thank Westfield90 for the $4.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support so much. And I'm also happy to see there's a lot of people finding the Lioness Lifestyle channel. Ellie's on point with that tonight. So Ellie, they're all in there. You type right at them, okay? They're finding us. They're subscribing over there. And yeah, it's fantastic. So Richelle, I'm intrigued by the thing you said about being a volume eater, because yeah, I point at myself, like me, that's me. And it's because I had a major binge and restrict thing that I used to do for like 30 years. And so it's like this tug. I don't know what to do about like protein and fat and keeping the weight off and all of that. And so do you have any idea? I don't know, some people track and some people don't. Like, do you track? And if you do, like, what's your rate? What does that ratio look like? I heard you say that you eat more fat and you sandwich it with fat. Can you explain a little bit more what that is like? Because I almost feel people have said, if you want to lose weight, don't eat the fat because, but then I find like I'm hungry or, I could just keep shoveling that protein in. So can you explain a little bit more? Because you seem to be totally satiated, when you put that fat in there.
Absolutely. And that is for the first time in my life. like, I think it even surprises my husband that I'm not eating anywhere near what I used to eat. Like, it used to be like, I'll like a plate plus another plate plus dessert plus some snacks an hour later. And now it's just like one plate, maybe 2 burger patties, half a steak or whatever, and then whatever fat I'm having with it. So like I said, I'm currently doing more Lion diet, which I never thought I would get away from butter either, but all of a sudden butter didn't taste good. Tallow tasted good. So I'm like, all right, my body's just going through a season. I'm just doing a thing with it. Whatever, I'll just go with it. I have tracked. I don't encourage people to track. I don't tell people they have to track. But if you're curious, I would say it's okay to track for a couple of days. Maybe you track 3 to 5 days, just so you know where you're at with your ratio. So you know, when I say ratio, I mean your fat to protein ratio, because for some people they need more fat. For some people they need less fat. It depends on if you have a cycle, if you're in menopause, if you have autoimmune diseases that you need to heal. It really depends on your body. I find most women, and this is not a general sweeping statement, but most women tend to be more satiated, more relaxed, less anxious, happier, more satisfied if they're doing a higher fat way of eating with the carnivore lifestyle. I've been tracking just for fun my GKI, my glucose ketone index. So every morning, poke my finger and I check my blood glucose and I check my blood ketones just to see where I'm at with my level of ketosis, because I am so in tune with my body that even when I'm in like a moderate state of ketosis versus a deep state of ketosis, I feel completely different. So those are metrics that I do track. I love doing for myself anywhere from 80-20, so 80% of my calories, not that I count them, but 80% of my calories coming from fat and only 20% coming from protein. I have done it to where it's been 90% fat, 10% protein. It was good for a few days. It definitely helped with some postpartum joint aches that I had. But the 80-20 seems to be where I just naturally fall anyway. My cycle still hasn't returned postpartum, so I'm waiting for that to kind of come back online, and just hoping that my thyroid continues to heal and just all of the other things. But yeah, that's about the depth of my tracking right now. I do have a lot of people who like to track. I do know a lot of people who like to track. And I will say that once I got the Keto Mojo, the GKI once I started tracking my GKI, that was when I started noticing, okay, now I'm in ketosis. I'm in a deep ketosis. I feel good. I don't have to eat as much. And that's when I kind of felt finally ready to go Lion as well. And once I switched to Lion, it's been about 75 days. And I'm not strict Lion. Like if on the weekend I decide I want some dairy, I have some dairy. Like I don't restrict myself. I don't, because I don't want to go back to my disordered way of eating. Like I feel like if your body's really, really innately craving something and you can't get it out of your head, aside from sugar and other addictive substances, like if you're really thinking about yogurt, or if you're really thinking about a sour pickle or whatever the thing is, chances are there might be something in there that you actually need. And I have found since going Lion that I had this, like, it was like 4 days where I just couldn't stop thinking about yogurt and dairy. I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? There was nothing wrong with me. It's just my body needed some nutrients from that yogurt and dairy. So I had one meal where I had some yogurt and a couple of other little bits of dairy. I think it was like the cottage cheese flatbread that everybody's going bananas about. And that was it. I didn't want any more after that. I was like, nah, I'm done. I don't feel as satisfied as I would with a steak or some burgers or whatever. But I don't know. Does that kind of answer your question?
I have this same question that one of our viewers has, which it doesn't look like I can put it up. Can someone put up Nia? Did you struggle with meat aversion? I actually have 2 questions. Did you stick to carnivore while you were pregnant? And after you had baby, did you have a good milk supply?
Oh, great question. So I'll answer the second question first. Yes, my milk supply is amazing. A lot of that is related to supply and demand. And that is something that I learned through the book, Breastfeeding Made Simple, 7 Natural Laws of Nursing. Excellent, excellent, excellent book. Yes, nutrition plays a key role in that, but also not putting and forcing your baby onto a feeding schedule and just letting them nurse when they want to. Like if you think they're needing something, you just put them on the breast. They won't nurse. You can't force a baby to nurse if they don't want to nurse. And my little guy, he's a serial nurser. He loves to be on the breast all the time. Like we'll play outside and it's like every 5 minutes he's like wants to be on and have a booty snack, which is totally fine. Yes, I did stay carnivore during my pregnancy. It was right before I found out. I was in the grocery store and I walked past all the fresh watermelons, and I hate watermelon. Okay, I hate it. I think it's disgusting. It's repulsive. Never been a fan of it. I walked by and I couldn't leave the store without it. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, I hate watermelon. Like, why do I want to leave the store with a watermelon? And I left the store with a watermelon. I ate the whole dang watermelon, and I bought a second one because I knew my husband liked watermelon. That was kind of the first indication, like, maybe I'm pregnant. Your heightened sense of smell it's wildly heightened. I didn't have so much a meat aversion, but I did have aversions to a lot of things. Like I went through a period in the first couple of weeks where eggs had to be cooked a certain way for me to eat them. Like I could only have them scrambled with cheese. I couldn't have sunny side up, which is typically how I enjoy them. I couldn't stand the smell of cumin. So my husband loves anything taco meat. So I could not stand the smell of cumin. My husband is not strict carnivore anymore. He does enjoy some jasmine rice. Couldn't stand the smell of rice. Could not stand the smell of coffee. All of those things had to be cooked in our garage or outside. Otherwise, I would just be like wanting to vomit. But I didn't really have a whole lot of meat aversions. I was obviously very mindful coming from the background that I have with making sure that I was, hitting my macros for competing, that I was going to be hitting my macros for pregnancy. So what I did was I leaned very heavily on Equip Prime protein. So they have they have a chocolate flavor, a salted caramel, a peanut butter, a vanilla, and then a plain one. Honestly, I probably would have been fine with the plain one, but I was pregnant and I was like, I'm not going to be super dogmatic about this. And I wanted to be able to enjoy the food without vomiting kind of thing. And so that's what I kind of relied on just to get my protein numbers up. I didn't do the peanut butter one. The only one I did was the chocolate, the vanilla, or the plain.
Awesome. I love it because your son is actually the same age as my friend's son who I watch. So I'm always thinking like, okay, Richelle's baby's going to be doing these things. And so I always think about you, and we talk all the time. But thank you. I appreciate that. So how has his milestones been? I know he's healthy, but can you tell our audience who might be questioning like, she's carnivore and she's only, how is he doing? What does his doctors think? What's going on?
Well, first of all, he has yet to see a doctor, which I'm super grateful for. I chose a lot of things differently than maybe a lot of people would do. I've done a lot of research and just made decisions that I felt were best for my son and for our family. He is definitely not lagging in any of the milestones. He started army crawling about a week ago, and he's fast, like really fast. He said, it was about a month ago, he said mama, and then the following day was dada, though my husband would prefer to be called papa because he's French. He's been absolutely amazing. And yes, he's here. He's ready for bed. So he might be a little bit fussy. So I just want to make anybody aware of the funny noises. He punched 2 bottom teeth through just before turning 5 months, and his 2 top teeth, front teeth, are coming in now as well. He's smart as a whip, this little guy. He loves beef. He loves bacon. He loves pork rinds. He's working on his little pincher grasp, and they recommend puff cereal. I'm sorry, I don't do cereal. So I got him some plain pork rinds. They're one ingredient, and he loves them. They're crunchy, and you want to talk about baby ASMR, listening to his little teeth like, it's so cute. But yeah, he's great. He's super, super healthy. He's very strong. He sleeps almost through the night, except for when he's teething. He might wake up once or twice, but he's overall super healthy and like, I don't know, to me, he's the most beautiful baby in the whole world. And I'm so grateful that he's my son.
Oh, that makes me like, I want almost tears. I'm going to sound like Ellie in a minute. I'm almost crying, like Ellie says.
I'm always crying. I'm sorry.
I know she kind of is, but we love you, Ellie. So my question is moving forward, because I have 2 sons myself, but I'm at the other end of the age. So I have a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old. My 15-year-old recently went carnivore and is doing fantastic. My 18-year-old wants no part of it right currently, but I'm working on it. What do you envision for your son as he gets older? Do you think that he'll be carnivore? Are you going to just do like whole foods, or like what type of diet do you envision for him in the future?
I think that's a great question. So part of what I have been doing with the baby-led weaning is allowing him to kind of choose. I've been very slow at introducing things, very mindful at introducing things, because I don't want to overwhelm his system while his digestive system is still building itself up, while his enzymes are still changing, his diet, like his gut flora, everything is still developing. So I don't want to overwhelm him with things that could be too reactive. I've seen a lot of people who introduce too many things too quickly, and then their children have reactions, or their children are just more sensitive. So I just want to be very mindful of what I'm introducing. I'm also, like I said, I've researched quite a bit. I'm also very aware of what foods I'm feeding him, because I want to make sure that his jaw develops properly. This is a huge thing, and I think it's like not talked about enough. But if you have an underdeveloped jaw, like I do, so like my jaw is slightly recessed. I had what's called malocclusion, which is like where your teeth are crowded. I had buck teeth, and like my palate didn't quite widen enough for all of my teeth to fit in. I don't want that for him. I don't want him to have his wisdom teeth pulled. I don't want him to have braces 3 times like I did and needing them a 4th time. Like, I just know that there are so many things that I can do while he's young and growing to help him move in the right direction. I'm going to shamelessly plug this book. It's not mine, but the book Jaws, for anyone who wants to read on the story of a hidden epidemic, on why a lot of children are on CPAP machines. It's not just because of their poor diet, it's because of a poorly developed jaw, which is causing a restricted airway. So, I mean, one of the things that terrified me as a first-time mom was on the 3rd day, my son had a choking episode, and I didn't know what to do. And, it was God's grace. My husband walked in right when it happened. And what had happened was the little guy had spit up, because they're learning their suck and gag and breathing reflexes all at the same time. My husband walked in, knew what to do, took care of everything, and we were fine. But it was like kind of that home realization, like it really drove it home that I need to be very vigilant in making sure that my son is eating foods that are difficult to chew, so that he can work his little jaw and like bring everything where it's supposed to be, and just develop as best as he can. A lot of people think that it's a genetic thing. It's not. And this book proves it. There are tons of testimonies and stories and pictures in there of like children who are told that their surgery is the only option. And they do this, these forward dogtics exercises, and suddenly their jaws are developed, and like their facial features are even more attractive. It's very interesting how it all works. But long story short, to answer your question, I'm not going to be strict with my son. I'm not going to say he can only ever eat meat. We will be heavily meat-based, but I want to give him the freedom to try things. Like if he wants to try a banana or some strawberries or something like that. I don't want him to end up developing a disordered or dysfunctional relationship with food like what I had. I mean, the house that I grew up in, now I look back, I'm like, wow, my mom fed us pretty well, considering she kept us from eating the sugary stuff. But what happened was I ended up wanting to eat that all the time because I never got to have it as a child. And then I became addicted to it, and, that whole story. But I don't plan on forcing it on him. Like I want to give him the ability to choose certain things if he wants to try avocado or whatever. And I want to encourage him to be aware of his body and observe how his body responds to whatever he's putting into it, so he can make those choices for himself to be like, I don't feel so good when I eat that. I feel better when I eat that. And that's him that's his self-learning kind of thing. So that's kind of my approach with it, very gentle and just allowing him to kind of explore with it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I wasn't aware of that book, but I'm going to pop. This is a channel, if you guys haven't heard of Kevin Stock. So he's a dentist. I'm putting it in the chat now. So he's a carnivore dentist. And he talks about that all the time too. So if you guys haven't seen him, that's a great resource. Sorry, Adrian, I just wanted to follow up and make sure people got their little hands on that channel if they were interested in that topic.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. I have one more question, but before I do, I'm going to duck off after because I'm actually at a fundraiser for something called One More Child. And it is a fundraiser for trafficked and homeless children in Florida. So if you feel so inclined, go check it out and donate to help the kids. And so I'm sorry that I'm going to duck off a little early for that. But it's really interesting how the carnivore diet brings us back to thinking primally. And I'm wondering, I think I heard you say that you birthed at home. And I did that too, my last one. And it was very primal. And I was wondering if you wanted to tell us a little bit about the advantages of that and why you chose that.
Oh, what a great question. Don't leave yet, Adrian. I'm just kidding. If you have to pop off, totally understandable. I chose to have a birth at home because I wanted to do things primally. And that is the best way I can describe it. I thought to myself, what did they do 200 years ago? You think back in Bible times, midwives are mentioned in Bible times, like in Moses's days. Like, they've been around a lot longer than doctors and other things. So for me, I just wanted to have that experience to know that I could do it because millions of other women have done it. But I wanted to know for myself that I could do it. They say that childbirth is the most painful experience of your life. Well, it's also the most rewarding because what comes at the end of it, you forget all the pain that you just went through when you see that little face. It's like glimpsing into the face of the Lord. As soon as you see that little face and those little hands and those little feet and just like this little person that's been growing inside of your womb this whole time, it's just so rewarding. So some of the benefits that I have found birthing at home, I would say the top one was after I had given birth to my little guy and we got everything situated, I was able to just climb into bed. So I didn't climb into my regular sheets. We had a plastic sheet over the bed with like a pair of like old crappy sheets that we didn't care if there was, blood on them and stuff like that. So after I gave birth to my son, I climbed into the bed and I just got to have that, they call it the golden hour, that time of bonding with him, of like figuring out latching and just my husband and our son and me. And it was just this beautiful time of connection, of just like praise, for our Lord giving us this gift. And I mean, I would do it all again 1,000 times if it meant getting to have this healthy little boy. I was comfortable because I was in my own home. My midwife was amazing. My birthing doula was amazing. My husband was the best. Like, he knew exactly what I needed. He knew when to get it for me. He helped me stay hydrated. He coached me through it. He reminded me that I was not alone going through this. And it was exactly how I think it would have been a couple hundred years ago. And I mean, I went into prodromal labor the night before. We moved into a new house, unpacked in 8 days. And then on the 20th of December, I was like, I feel like sowing some grass seed because I'm tired of looking at dirt. So I raked a 20 by 40 foot dirt patch and cast some seeds, spread some lawn seed, and put myself into labor that evening. And then I ended up in prodromal labor, which is labor that's not progressing. Like, it's just kind of like dormant labor. But anyway, we got everything set up in the event that I was going to give birth. And then the next morning, after the midwife and the doula left, I went back into labor, and real labor. It took about an hour or two for my water to break. And that was the worst part, like getting the water to break. My water bag was so strong, but when it finally broke, I felt so relieved. I was like, oh, now what do I do? And so as soon as I sat down, because I felt like I had to use the washroom, as soon as I sat down on the toilet, the urge to push came over me. And it was about 30 minutes of pushing and the baby was out. It was just boom. Everything happened very, very fast. It was difficult, but like I said, I would do it 1,000 times over again if it means having another healthy baby.
Oh, I get chills just thinking about it. Like, oh, bye, Adrian. Thanks for coming.
Adrian.